Okay, so picture this. You finally find a home with a yard, or maybe a great condo townhouse on a park. You've saved for years, stretched your budget. You've played the long game. You've got the down payment, you've budgeted for the movers, the lawyer, and then a bill lands for 60 grand before you even get the keys. Not for renovations, not for furniture, just the tax paid on day one. So, how's a family supposed to set roots in this city? How do you move up from your starter home when closing costs cost as much as a new kitchen, a car, or 2 years of daycare? So, today we're unpacking Toronto's double land transfer tax, how it started, why the city leans on it, and how it's quietly trapping families in place. But more importantly, I'll share a playbook to help you navigate it so you can move strategically and not emotionally. Okay, so now before we get started, if at any point in this video you've got questions or something doesn't add up, drop it in the comments or shoot me an email. I'm always happy to help you make sense of Toronto's, real estate maze. So whether it's this tax, neighborhood options, or anything about the market, hit me up and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. Okay, so let's start with what exactly is the land transfer tax and why does it hit so hard? Okay, so in Ontario, every real estate buyer pays a provincial land transfer tax, but in Toronto, there's a twist. The city adds its own municipal land transfer tax on top of that. So when you buy in Toronto, you are paying both, a double tax. So first-time buyers get a little bit of relief, covering roughly the first $400,000 in value. It helps on a $500,000 condo, but it doesn't go far in $1 million city. Now, let's look at a real scenario. So say you are a move-up buyer looking at a $1.6 million semi-detached house. The double land transfer tax on that is roughly $56,000. So I want you to really visualize that money. That is a luxury kitchen renovation. That is a brand new electric SUV. That is 3 years of private school tuition. When you buy that house, you're paying that luxury item. And then what started this year, if you're a foreign buyer, the city layers on another 10% tax on top. So we now have one of the heaviest transaction tax stacks, say that 3 times, in North America. So now that we know what it is, let's talk about why City Hall depends on it so much. So when Toronto introduced its own land transfer tax in 2008, it was supposed to bring in about $150 million a year. But by 2015, it was $500 million, and by 2021, it was over $1 billion. So that tax goes straight into the city's general revenues. It pays for transit, parks, police, and social programs. That's partly why Toronto's annual property tax hikes have stayed relatively modest compared to other GTA cities. But here's the problem. This income isn't stable. So when the market slows, the revenue collapses. In 2023, land transfer tax receipts fell by almost $300 million, blowing a massive hole in the city's budget. And I can only imagine what that shortfall will be this year. That's the danger. You build a city budget on a tax that disappears the moment families stop moving. So what happens when a tax designed to fund the city ends up freezing it instead? So economists call it a lock-in effect. If you bought your home before 2015, you are likely sitting on a lot of equity, but you are also wearing what I like to call golden handcuffs. You can't unlock that equity to move to a better house without paying the city a massive exit fee. Now for move-up buyers, there's no rebate. That $56,000 bill is just gone. So a lot of people decide, let's just renovate and stay. But every family that stays put is one less starter home hitting the market for the next generation. It creates a ripple effect, lower turnover, tighter supply, and higher prices. If we look at investors, they treat LTT like a business expense. They bake it into the math. But regular families, they feel it in cash. And that imbalance quietly shifts who gets to compete for homes in this city. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why doesn't the city just get rid of it? Well, it's not that simple. To replace that $1 billion in revenue with property tax alone, we'd need something like a 25 to 35% tax increase across the board. Toronto's current residential property tax rate is already one of the lowest among major Canadian cities. Raising it that fast might make fiscal sense, but politically, it's a minefield. So if we can't eliminate the tax, what could make it fair? So I thought of 5 ideas that could maybe help reduce the friction. So the first is a move up credit. So give a partial rebate to families moving within the city on primary homes under $1.5 million. And the next, we could just do a partial rebate to everyone. Give individuals and families a break if they sell and buy their primary residence within a 12-month period and stay here in the city of Toronto. The other thing we could do is a family housing earmark. So dedicate the revenue from LTT to 3-bedroom units and parks and family amenities so we see where the money is going. The city could also introduce a stability rule, so base their budget on a rolling average so services don't crash when the market cools. And then lastly, and this is a controversial one, but maybe a mortgage roll-in option. So work with banks to allow the tax to be rolled into the mortgage for a little bit of short-term relief and more cash available on closing. So if we're stuck with this tax, at least for now, here's your practical playbook. So A, price the friction early. So run the city's calculator before house hunting. Know your phantom luxury cost. And then B, do your reno versus move audit. So compare the total cost and quality of life. Sometimes a renovation is the smarter financial play if you're willing to deal with some of the headaches of a renovation. And then C, neighborhood arbitrage. So money saved on the purchase price saves you twice on your down payment and your tax. So look for those under the radar pockets where prices are a little bit below the overall city average. Okay, so at the end of the day, a city isn't just a collection of condos and tax revenue. It's about roots. Right now, Toronto is sending a loud message to young families. If you want space, leave. We hear it all the time, just move to the suburbs or drive until you qualify, but we shouldn't be telling families to give up on the city. We should be fighting to make it livable for the next generation because here's the truth. When closing costs hit well over $60,000, the only people who can afford to move are the wealthy or the investors. Middle-class families, they just stay stuck. And a city without growing families isn't a community. It's just a resort for the rich. I'm in this business because I love seeing people find their place in this city. We need leadership that stops looking at your move as a revenue spike and starts looking at it as a family setting down roots. Toronto deserves better than to be a transaction fee. So if you're planning to move or just trying to understand how these costs fit your plan, download the Move Up Math checklist below. I've included line by line closing costs, land transfer tax scenarios, and some other little tidbits of information. So as always, I'm Josh. This is Under the Radar Real Estate. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. What do you think of the land transfer tax? Do you think it's something that could be removed, or do you think Toronto should maybe look at increasing property tax a little bit to offset that? Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Peace out.